Hi, welcome to Lesson 13 of Negotiate Value. How are you feeling about your BATNA? How are you feeling about your options? Well, I believe that you always have options, and in fact, there are more options now for almost anything than there ever have been before. There are just tons of options out there in the world. Yet, working with companies, I find that a lot of us limit our options. So, how do we do that? We do that by saying things like, he's the only guy that can do the job, or well, they have proprietary technology that no one else has. Or they're the only likely buyer for this, so we better sell to them. We better make our price palatable to them. Now, these are all expensive sentences. They don't increase your options, they limit your options. I believe they do so needlessly, and I want to tell you a story that illustrates that. And this is a story about a web retailer that I was working with several years ago as a client. And this internet retailer got almost all of its customers, actually got all of its customers from two websites where it was doing advertising. This was a huge expense for the company. In fact, it was their biggest line item, even greater than payroll. And I saw this and I said, hey, have you negotiated these prices? Can you do anything about this expense to make it a little bit lower? And he said, well, they're the only ones I can go to. That's the expensive sentence, right? They're the only ones I can go to because they're reaching my audience and I don't really have any other options. Another expensive sentence. So I said, is that really true? And after some negotiation, I sort of convinced him to go out to the marketplace and try a little RFP just with these two websites to see if we could bring their prices a little bit lower. While we were doing that, after we'd actually issued the RFP, it was a one-page RFP, the one website actually bought the other one. So instead of having a duopoly, we now had a monopoly where all his advertising was concentrated. And he said, hey, Jack, let's back off from this. Let's not even mess it up, because what if they decide to raise our prices? And they're the only ones that can serve us. And I said, is that really true? Do you really depend upon that company for all of your advertising? I said, what would you do if all of a sudden that company were gone? Would you be out of business? And he said, no, I guess I wouldn't be out of business. I guess I do have some other options. And what we did next was we made a picture. We drew a picture on the whiteboard. It didn't look quite like this, but it was a factory. And so we drew a picture of a factory, and then we drew on one side inputs, and on the other side outputs. Okay? Something goes into the factory, something goes out of it. And when we looked at his business, I said, now this website where you're putting all your advertising dollars, let's think about that as a factory. What goes into it and what comes out of it? And we figured out that, well, what goes into it was ad copy, his advertisements, and then money. That's what he put into the factory. And what he got out of it was qualified leads. So then we asked the question, now what other factory does this? Is there anywhere else we could go with some money and some ad copy and come out the other side with qualified leads? And he started to think, well, yeah, I guess I could use direct mail because some of my competitors actually do that for the business he was in. And we said, okay, that's good. And he said, I could actually advertise in some print magazines, and that's an option. And the other thing I could do is go to some other websites. They wouldn't be as concentrated for my niche audience, but they would still, have some penetration and some reach to people that might buy from me. So we developed some options. And then we went back to the websites that was charging these high rates for advertising. And the happy end of the story was he was actually able to reduce his rates by 19% and staying with the same website. Now, he wouldn't have been able to do that if he didn't really believe that he had some options, if he didn't go through the factory exercise. So I want to bring your attention back to the point that the reason we build more options is, well, for two reasons. It's to raise the benefit, and it's to lower the cost. So again, this is very familiar because you've been in this course for a while now, but they're the two sides of it, both increasing the benefit and both lowering the price. But if you limit your options, you're missing out on both of those things. So it's not enough to say, hey, this price is pretty good. You need to continue to look at your options so you don't miss the innovation. You don't push the potential, which is what this module is all about. Now, that brings us to the homework. So let's talk about this. What we're going to do is our own factory exercise. And I want you to think about one of the top areas of spend in your company, and ideally one that's in the top 5, but also one where you feel like you don't have many choices, where it would be hard to go and use another vendor or another provider for what you're doing. And then what we're going to do is build our own factory exercise. So we're going to draw the factory and then name the inputs and the outputs, and then ask the question, what other factories do this? But the real bulk of the exercise is just naming the inputs and the outputs, so let's do that now. And we are going to go to draw it because, heck, it's fun to draw a factory. So let's go ahead and do that now. And in this factory, real simple, you get to draw the smokestacks, and then best of all, the smoke coming out. And you've got inputs, and then you've got outputs. So in my example, I'm going to use information technology. I'm going to talk about a software developer. And what goes into the factory, if that's the factory, are business requirements and some design. And then what comes out of the factory is software and websites. Okay, so simply put, that's it. And when you do your exercise, do the same thing. Draw the factory, do the inputs and the outputs. Now here's the key point. You're not a unique business, and whatever problem you've faced before is something that someone else has faced as well. So for my friend, the example I told earlier about the internet retailer, he said, well, my users are all at one place on the web, and that's the best way for me to find them. That was a specific way to describe his need. But a much more general way to describe it was, I'm looking for ways to find qualified leads for my inputs of dollars and ad copy. And when he did that, he was in a much better position to find more options. So that's the point of this exercise. And what we're going to do next is talk about how do you find more options, because you still may feel like there's a poverty of options for what you're looking for. But once you define the problem, you're in a great position to find more options. And I'm going to give you 2 specific ways to do that and some tactics to use. And the first is web research. This is something that we all know is an amazing resource available to us, the internet. There's so much out there, so many people putting so much information out there for free, and so much marketing information that really whatever problem you have, you can become an expert, I say, in a few hours by doing directed web research. But there is some skill to it, and there are some things you'll learn about it. So one thing I'd say is go in open-minded and realize that it's going to take a little while to find the right terms that you want to search with. Go in with your problem, describe the solutions if you think you know what they are, but realize that what you'll probably learn is the industry, the people that are solving that problem, may call it something a little bit different than you do. But again, start with your problem, go into the web, and you'll find some good answers. The other resource let's talk about is experts. So if you know what your problem is, it's amazing how many experts are in the world, and you can learn a lot by simply calling somebody up and asking, how did they attack this problem? Your problem is going to be something related to efficiency, something related to technology, something related to sales, maybe something related to managing your people. These are all things, once you get from the specific to the abstract, that have been addressed by many other companies and many experts. And so here's a short list of people that you might call and talk to who would probably be happy to share how they've attacked that problem and their success or their struggles along the way that you can learn from. So talk to your vendors. Ask your vendors who else they can talk to, what other customers they have, how they've solved the same problems that you have. Likewise, call your customers. If you're solving a problem that isn't directly related to how you fulfill your customer needs, let's say it's infrastructure and you're delivering customer service or you're delivering a product, well, call that customer and say, hey, how do you guys approach this? We like you, we like working with you, we feel like you do things well, and we're interested in finding other ways to address this problem. We want to find some more options, and they'll probably help you. There are tons of consultants out there now, right? And they're serve on all sorts of different subject matters. So sometimes it takes a little bit of work to find the right consultant that really has the experience that you're looking for. But again, one way you can find that is through your vendors or your clients. Say, who have you worked with and knows about this? And they'll probably be able to direct you to somebody that has a wealth of expertise. And most consultants are happy to have a half an hour discussion to fill you in and educate you, knowing that that may lead to an opportunity for them down the road or it may not, but they're generally eager to share. And then one that you may not have thought of is your competitors. Now, a lot of times we're reluctant to talk to our competitors, and specifically when it comes to areas where it's about expense or how we do things. But there are a lot of areas that we don't think about as our company as being part of our competitive success, right? If we're a company doing something in lawn services, well, we probably don't think about how we do our books as something that really leads to our success. And if another lawn service company called, we might be happy to share how we do that, our experience, and who we found that works or that doesn't. So think about your competitors or peer groups as well. There are 1,000 experts out there, and you can talk to somebody who's willing to share, and that will start to make you the expert, which is a great thing if you want to continue to develop options. So I'll see you next time in Lesson 14.